What fragrance made people literally run after me in the street just to ask what I was wearing? Does the fragrance of power actually exist? How can one fragrance take you back to childhood? Today I'm going to show you 7 fragrances that I completely finished and I will absolutely buy again. And if you know anything about me, you know that's a big deal, because I rarely repurchase fragrances. There are simply too many perfumes in the world to explore, but this fragrance earned a permanent place in my collection. Hello, my name is Oleyné, I'm personal stylist from Amsterdam. Here we're talking about fashion and fragrances. Hit follow, like this video and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. And let's begin. The first fragrance is Promise by Frederic Malle. If I had to choose the most complimented fragrances I've ever owned, it would be this one. People literally stopped me in the street asking what I was wearing. Sometimes they even ran after me. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Promise was created by Dominique Rapion, one of my favorite perfumers of all time. In fact, years ago I realized that most of my favorite fragrances had one thing in common. They were all created by Dominique Rapion. Promise smells like green apple, Turkish and Bulgarian rose, woods, spices and warm resins. Imagine apple cider mixed with luxurious roses inside a garden. It's a powerful and unforgettable. And somehow it managed to be both elegant and attention-grabbing at the same time. This is one of my very few fragrances I will buy again without hesitation. But if Promise is a fragrance strangers chased me for, the next fragrance takes me straight back to childhood, Platinum Égoïste by Chanel. This is exactly what my childhood smells like. If you grew up in the late 90s or early zeros, chances that your father, uncle or one of their friends wore these fragrances is really huge. To me, it smells like clean shirts, fresh, confidence and classic masculinity. Lavender, fresh green notes, oak moss, woods, amber and sandalwood creates this creamy base. Everything is blended together so perfectly that it becomes almost impossible to separate the notes. And that's one of the things I loved about Chanel fragrances. They don't smell like individual ingredients, they smell like a finished idea. When I wear Platinum Égoïste, I don't think about perfume, it simply feels put together. The next fragrance smells like spring itself. Gentle Fluidity Silver by Maison Kurkdjian. This fragrance contains one of the most beautiful juniper notes I've ever smelled. Actually, if somebody asked me for the best juniper fragrance in perfumery, this would be my answer every single time. To me, it smells like melting snow, cold streams, fresh air, ice slowly disappearing after winter, or even like ice-cold gin cocktails on sunny afternoon. It's fresh, clean, modern and incredibly versatile. You can wear it to work, on a date and meeting friends. It never feels too much. One of my friends bought it immediately after smelling it on me, and honestly, I understood why. It's simply that good. The next fragrance changed my entire perception of vanilla, Shalimar by Guerlain. If somebody asked me where to start exploring vanilla in perfumery, I would immediately say start from Guerlain. Shalimar was created in 1925 by Jacques Guerlain. More than 100 years later, it still feels relevant, and that's extraordinary. Vanilla, bergamot, leather, incense, iris, tonka bean, resins, everything melts together into one of the most beautiful vanilla fragrances ever created. To me, it smells like warm profiteroles filled with cream, but in the most elegant and sophisticated way imaginable. I finished a 50 ml bottle in only 3 months, and that almost never happens. I genuinely believe this is one of the greatest fragrances ever created. The next fragrance is probably the most artistic fragrance in this entire video. Fils de Joie by Serge Lutens. Unfortunately, it has been discontinued, but if you ever find it somewhere, pay attention. This fragrance is built around one of the most beautiful jasmine notes I've ever encountered. Jasmine, honey, ylang-ylang, a slight menthol freshness in the opening, and then this incredible transformation into something sensual, mysterious and depthly emotional. This isn't just a fragrance, it's an art. Every time I smell it, I think about music, paintings and creativity. It's the kind of fragrance that makes you stop and feel something. And finally, the fragrance that completely defined my every season of the year. The projection of this fragrance is absolutely incredible, and the longevity is easily over 12 hours. The only thing I'm really waiting for is for Serge Lutens to bring it back into production, because honestly I need at least one more bottle. Jardins de Bagatelle by Guerlain. This fragrance feels like sunlight in a bottle. Imagine standing in a field surrounded by flowers. The sun is warming the trees around you. The air is filled with pollen. Everything feels bright, golden and alive. That's exactly what Jardins de Bagatelle smells like. Tuberose, jasmine, gardenia, neroli, bergamot. Jardins de Bagatelle was created by Guerlain in 1983 and was inspired by famous Bagatelle gardens in Paris. The gardens themselves have a fascinating story. In 1775, the Count of Artois, the brother-in-law of Marie Antoinette, made a bold bet. He claimed he could build an entire chateau in less than 3 months. Most people thought it was impossible, but he succeeded. The Chateau de Bagatelle and its gardens were completed in just 64 days. It's one of the most beautiful white floral fragrances I've ever worn. That fragrance brought me joy every single time I wore it. These are the fragrances I almost finished completely. The fragrance I will absolutely buy again, because perfume is never just a smell, it's memory, it's emotion, it's identity. So tell me in the comments, which fragrance would you buy again, no matter how many bottles you already finished? And if you enjoy fragrances, fashion and style, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.